Okay, just a little tutorial on how I answered the task on the carbon cycle. So if you go into, I'm currently in the class OneNote. I'm in the content library, which you can all access. I'm in module 1, which I'm highlighting with my pen right here, and I'm on the page carbon cycle. Okay, in this tab, I've got the two tasks and the diagram from Canvas. I've just copied that over. And the task is I've got to draw a diagram and I've also got to label my sources and sinks. The diagram doesn't have to be pretty. Mine isn't very pretty, okay? I'll just zoom in a little bit. And you can see here that I've got some plants here, I've got some animals, I've got some dead animals, I've got oil, gas and coal, I've got my ocean and my photosynthesizing organisms in my ocean, I've got cars and humans, and I've got volcanic eruptions. And I've labelled my sinks, which are the things that take carbon from the atmosphere, as in they absorb carbon from the atmosphere. I've labelled my sinks as plants. I've also labelled it as dead animals. Okay, so don't be confused by the living sheep and the dead sheep. The dead sheep are down here, they're dead animals, they're sinks. The oil, gas, and coal, they're also sinks, but when we burn them, they become sources. So they're sinks that we keep in the earth. They're not in the atmosphere until we burn them. And then in our ocean is also a sink because it absorbs about 50% of the carbon in our atmosphere, and that carbon then goes into photosynthesizing organisms. So we can call our ocean a sink as well, and I've labeled those with green arrows. Now my sources of carbon in the atmosphere, so that's stuff that's putting carbon out. When I burn plants, that gives me carbon, so my forest fires. I've also got my carbon emissions over here. I've got cars and humans driving up this mountain. I've also got these animals down here respiring, so when we breathe, and any animals breathe, they breathe in oxygen and they breathe out carbon dioxide, which is a source of carbon dioxide. And also when actually, that's not relevant. Don't worry about cows. And then the last one is our volcanic eruptions. So when volcanoes erupt, they generally put quite a bit of carbon into the atmosphere. That can be in the form of ash, it can be in the form of whatever. But normally with tectonic plate activity, which you would have learned about in grade 9, when our tectonic plates move around a little bit, that can cause volcanoes, it can cause uplift of rocks, and what our rocks do is they cycle around, which you learn about in grade 8. So that is how the carbon cycle has sources and sinks. Sources put things out into the atmosphere or put carbon out into the atmosphere, and sinks put carbon or trap carbon into solid material that isn't in the atmosphere. Hence why in the water cycle it was a bit of a trick question, because the ocean has a layer where it actually interacts with the atmosphere, so do trees, so do clouds, and that really does move in kind of a cyclic pattern, whereas carbon is more like it releases and then it gets trapped again.